Hello, my lovelies, and welcome back to Sundering Tarot. If you're new here, hi, hello, welcome. This is the third and final part to my Swords edition for my 22 favorites out of my 2022 deck collection. So allow me to go ahead and show you some pretty cards. We're going to jump right in with the Eight of Swords. Okay. As you can see, most of these are a little bit non-traditional. We have the Soul Cats Tarot, we have the Force of Enchantment, we have the Game of Thrones Tarot, and we have the Light Seers Tarot. And these are all a little bit different here. The Soul Cats Tarot, you see all these birds holding swords. They're literally flying with swords in their mouth, and then you see this cat with a sword that's blindfolded and tangled up. I like that you see all this chaoticness around this cat who can't see, can't free itself. And then you see these birds that are kind of like wandering thoughts. There's a little bit of like overthinking, or you're thinking keeping yourself trapped. That resonates with the birds in this particular card. Don't ask me why, but it does. Very much does. The Eight of Challenges, the Eight of Swords out of the Force Enchantment. This is an Earth deck, so getting tangled in brambers and all scratched up, all beat up, all stuck, losing your way, can't find your way out of a thicket that has these sharp thorns that are going to cut you, very much speaks of the Eight of Swords energy to me. And for those of you that have never seen Game of Thrones, sorry, spoiler alert, because we're going to discuss the scene in this card. Here we have Brienne of Tarth. She's tied to a tree. And this is when her and Jaime get captured by Royce Bolton's men. And they camp for the evening. And Jaime warns her that they might try to have their way with her. And they do. They untie her and they take her into the dark. So she doesn't free herself. She gets freed, but it's not freedom in the sense of freedom. She's just no longer to the tree. She's still stuck in the situation. But Jaime, however, knowing what's about to happen, decides to lie. And that lie ends up saving Brienne's life. She does not get raped. Instead, her virtue is intact. So Jaime's actually the one that frees her of a situation, which unfortunately causes Jaime his own consequences. There's a unique take on that, knowing that Brienne does not free herself. Her freedom actually comes from somebody else. But I do, because I've seen Game of Thrones, I understand her situation and why she is stuck and how she is stuck. And that very much works for Eight of Swords for me. And Chrisanne, I love this. This was my very first Eight of Swords that I fell in love with. You see a person here, and they look to be looking into a mirror, and you have these crows which represent swords with strings in their mouth tying this person up, and they're blindfolded, so they're stuck, but it's in their reflection, so it's all in their head, it's all in their perception. It's not actually real, it's just their imagination. Knowing that sometimes when you feel stuck or are stuck, it's not exactly the truth. It is merely a perception, and you could be the only one that has that perception, because what somebody else sees in the reflection is not going to be what you see. And that is very poignant. And this was definitely the very first Eight of Swords that I fell in love with, because eventually RWS imagery is good to learn on, always good to fall back on, always easily understood, but eventually after enough clones, the artwork becomes redundant and boring. And if it's a card that you don't naturally read well, it sometimes it doesn't help. It doesn't help to express it, to show the same imagery over and over again. So having various imagery is very nice and makes things more relatable, more personable. With that, we're going to move into the Nine of Swords. The Nine of Swords is not one of my favorite cards in the Suit of Swords. It's very bleh to me. And it's usually somebody in a bed with 9 swords above them. And I will admit, we do see that with the Soul Cats tarot here. We have the Soul Cats, we have the Out of Hand tarot in the middle, and then we have the Magical Dogs on the far right. I will say that the Soul Cats tarot is very close to an RWS clone. You see a cat, they're in bed, and they've got 9 swords above them. I'm slowly learning something about myself when it comes to certain cards, that I can still take RWS imagery, but if you put an animal in place of a human, I find it more relatable. Does anyone else have this as an issue or, you know, a workaround? Does anybody else have this association that works easier with cards if it's not a human entity depicted? Just, you know, let me know in the comments section down below if that is true, because I find this adorable, and I can relate to this. I can see this as the Nine of Swords just fine. But if you put a person there, I'm just like, yeah, whatever. The Out of Hand tarot, I love the fact that the Out of Hand tarot is a different perspective for a deck overall. But Jamie's got this whole blanket and notebook, and, you know, there's problem solving, there's brainstorming, there's overthinking, there's trying to get something done. I mean, you see little doodles, the little tornado of being procrastinating, not being able to get done what you should, distraction, ADHD. You see all this stuff, and eventually you get the perspective of, okay, I can't think anymore, my head hurts, and interlocking their hands and literally resting their head in their hands. And I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure every single one of us have done that at some point. And that's what makes this card relatable. That is a pose, that is a feeling that all of us have had, that has been caused by various different things. But this card embodies that enough that just with the pose, the fingers crossing and holding your head in your hands, you know how this feels. And that's fantastic in a card. Because I don't get that from the traditional RWS version of the Nine of Swords, but I get it from this card, and that is everything. And then we have the Nine of Sky from the Magical Dogs tarot. This dog hiding in a cave while there's a storm and rain coming. You see all this thunder and lightning in the background. So, terrified dog, scared of thunder and lightning, trying to hide and feel safe in a damp cave. That I get. The nightmare, the terror, the uncertainty, just wanting to be safe and not always having that in your current situation. That is relatable to me. Like I said, there's something to be said about, instead of a human, having animals in place of, you know, as a placeholder, and it being more relatable. It just, for me, there just is. I guess I like animals better than humans. All right, and for final sword suit, the 10 of Swords, we have the Forest of Enchantment, we have the Game of Thrones tarot, and we have the Mystical Cats tarot. Okay, I admit the 10 of Swords is kind of a very boring depicted card. It's not the easiest to read with, and out of the Suit of Swords, it's probably the second or third card that I don't have a good relationship with when it comes to the sword suit. I kind of hate it. I really kind of hate it. And it's not the artwork that's depicted. It's usually has to do with meaning, the association, and, avoidance issues and whatnot. So to find something that is relatable, that doesn't irk me, that can read very well the way I need it to, whether I'm reading for myself or somebody else, is very key. And as you can see, I didn't pick very many. I have probably 70 decks. Currently, I had like 52 at the end of 2022, which is what these are pulled from. And all I got is 3 out of 52 decks. Granted, some of those were oracles, but still, a high number of tarot decks, and 3 cards is all I got. We see a broken knight down on his luck. He's in shambles. He's given up. He's lost hope. He's utterly defeated. And, wanting to just sit there and let the world pass him by. I get that. I get the defeated attitude. Instead of 10 swords in somebody's back and them just lying dead and it being final and being, kind of a death card part 2. I like the feeling with this. I like the extra emotion, the extra layer that comes with this particular card. The Game of Thrones tarot, and for those of you who've never seen Game of Thrones, I am so sorry because, spoiler alert, I'm going to have to discuss this particular scene in order to explain the card. This is where Jon dies. This is where Jon Snow literally gets called a traitor for letting wildlings pass through the wall, and his brothers in the Night Watch murder him. So just the sign traitor with the swords is plenty. I know that scene. I know what happens. I know that is a betrayal. I know that was an ending of certain things, not just Jon's life. That was the ending pretty much of him on the wall. That was him as a brother of the Night's Watch, because you're in the Night's Watch until death. Well, Jon died, so that is over. All the people that stabbed him, who betrayed him, that he counted as friends and brothers, and those that were supposed to have his back, those relationships are now over. I get that for a 10 of Swords, of it being dead, done, and over with, and especially of something needing to come to an end, because that very much depicts several things that came to an end or were put to an end. Let's put it that way. Mystical Cats Tarot. The first time I saw this particular card out of this deck, I was uncomfortable. This is a cat that is terrified of the thunder and lightning you see in the background. It's also looked like it's had sticks and stones thrown at it. It's all scratched up. It's all beat up. It's emaciated. It is literally starving to death. There's a sensitive spot when it comes to cats and animals in particular, when it comes to abuse and whatnot, that animal cruelty, that makes this card a little uncomfortable to look at. And the first time I saw it, I was like, no, I really not sure if I like that. But the more I sat with this card, the more I realized there's a point of giving up. There's a point of wanting to die. There's a point of situations needing to end for all parties involved. And this card, it's not gentle in some aspects, but it still resonates as the 10 of Swords. So yeah, when push comes to shove and it comes difficult, and I usually need something really, really sharp to get my attention when it comes to 10 of Swords energy, this is probably the card that's most likely to do it. because it's very much in your face. Whereas this is more subtle, but I get it. There's emotion tied to it. Yes, this makes sense, but it's not a life or death situation. It's more mental and emotional. This is finite, but it's muted. Whereas this is more shoved in your face. So I have different scales of the spectrum from the cards I selected, even though I selected very few. All right, my lovelies, I'm going to go ahead and leave this here. That is the end of my Sword Suit edition for favorite cards for 2022. And I do believe I think I'm filming Cups next. I think I'll film Cups next. We'll see. Maybe it'll be Pentacles, but I think I'll probably go with Cups. So please be on the lookout for that. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye.